Thank you for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 115. Host Greg Gaub. We got Luff, Don, Dewan, John, Dennis, Jeremy, and George, and Gary, and Wayne, and Bill, and Alan, and Jim, and Chris, and Henry, and other people. Let's talk slot cars. Does anybody have any show and tell they'd like to show and or tell? Raise your virtual hand. We'll be sure and get to you. We've already got a couple up. So, Bill, you've got your hand up. What would you like to show and tell about?
Hey, everybody. Well, I sent the link over to Greg. I put together a little video. I said I was going to Slot Car City in Vegas during our trip, and that I'd take some pictures or get some footage. And so did that. And I sent it on over to him. I can't claim it to be particularly production worthy, but you get the general gist of it and all that.
You want me to go ahead? You want me to go ahead and share it, or wait? You want to talk about it a little bit more? Or?
Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to mute it as well if you want, and I could just give the quick, once over.
Okay, let me get it.
It's a cool place.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and they were really pleasant. Real nice folks. Yeah, he really was. Very, very helpful. So I put all this stuff on here because never know. So this is the first time I'd ever gone on a wood track. In fact, none of us had ever been on a wood track. It's running pretty slow, at least on this end, but Mickey helped set us all up. They were all rentals. I think I forget the price on them, but I'm going to say, I think I paid like $50 for all of us. It wasn't much from the standpoint of going out for for a little while. So you can see there, he's got his store. And then you've got some counter space there for people to set up their I guess, carrying cases, whatever. I'm not sure what you call them, but they had a club event that night. And so that track that you see there is not, was not in use, nor were we probably worthy of driving that one. There's a lot, it's just, yeah. The other one was definitely more of a training wheels one. We all really enjoyed it. It was the first time I'd done a 1/24th scale. Or driven a 1/24th scale car as well. So basically in terms of that, my wife really enjoyed the wood track racing as well. So it'll make it easier for us, or for me, when it comes time to build, beyond this existing one. Then, you'll see there's my fingers. I'm a great photographer. And we've got basically from there, just a couple of photos of the store. So he has his maintenance parts. He's got some cars as well, and some shells or bodies. And then you've got your models over there. You've got your track. It primarily was Scalextric from what I could tell. But really just a great little place. You could see some people just getting started, or that one guy just getting started there. And there's Mickey. And he spent, a fair amount of time kind of running me through stuff. So I can't claim to give you, or, I can't really say that there's a lot of technical data that I can give you, other than, hey, had a great time. But we did have a good time. If you're new and you haven't ever been to a wood track, everyone was friendly. Even the folks that were coming in and doing the racing, sometimes I'm sure seeing the general public when you're trying to do a club race isn't necessarily your favorite thing in the world. Everybody was still very pleasant, and a few people, showed some of their stuff off and everything, and it was nice. So just wanted to say thank you to Slot Car City, and hoping one of these days we can go on back.
He had a drag track, strip right behind there as well. I don't think he showed that off. It was. Oh
no, I didn't see that one.
It was right behind the track that you were using for the club track and everything.
Oh.
And my understanding is Mick was supposed to be a world-renowned racer. I don't know if you know much about him, Dennis, or not. But he's supposed to be a world-class driver, slot car driver.
Well, he certainly knew his stuff. Yeah.
And hopefully the video. I was just gonna say, hopefully the video looked good. for my recording. If not, I put the video link in the chat, and we'll put it in the description below, so you can hit that and watch just the video without all of us talking about it, and listen to the audio of those cars whizzing around. What were you going to say, John?
I was just going to say, Bill, did you really notice the difference on a routed track versus a plastic sectional track?
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, on the routed track, I was unable to send a car 3 or 4 feet in the air. I mean, if I'd given it some effort, I probably could have. But no, it was a much more smooth experience. The noise was more enjoyable, if that makes sense. You know, it's you're not hearing clicks as the wheels are going over, you know, the occasional, you know, crease between, or, you know, the connection between the track on a Carrera track. But yeah, it definitely, I mean, it wasn't a new track, but I didn't have any issue with it. No one seemed to have any issue with it, at least that we could tell. If we did, we were oblivious to it. He pointed out a couple of the corners and said, you know, just be careful in these spots, you know, and he gave a spot on one of the corners. He said, when you get on to the underpass, slow down, you know, once you're there, slow down, or you're going to throw your car off. And sure enough, I might have done that many times, but yeah, really enjoyed it. The only other one I've got, and give me just a sec here, I'll grab it off the table.
I mean, now at least I have one reason to want to do something in Las Vegas.
Until Dewan gets his stuff ready.
Until Dewan gets his stuff going, yeah.
Well,
It was hot. 108 degrees.
It was down 106.
Yeah, that's what indoors are for.
Yeah.
Oof.
The big difference, of course, would have been the foam tires.
Oh, yep. Well, so the cars we were driving had foam tires on them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, yeah,
They would have made a
I don't know enough yet.
Right.
So, and then the second thing, just a very brief one is, as I had said a while back, I got a laser cutter, and I've been really hesitant, or at least kind of afraid of it. The application that you use to design everything, you have to do everything in 2D, and I could not wrap my head around doing something in 3D and dropping it into 2D. But I gave myself some time a couple of Sundays ago, and ended up about an hour in, it reminded me of a different program that I'd worked on about 20 years ago. And then from there, I was off to the races, so to speak. And now this is ugly, and the scale is not right. But this is the first.
That looks great.
Well, so up here, I've got a couple of logos for A&W because I liked that as a kid. But I inverted them, so I have to redo it, or I need to invert them because it's wrong. And then basically, yeah, the counters and everything, you can see it's got, let's see there, you got a little countertop in there. So this is basically a draft.
So did you glued it together, or did you?
Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to make the curve cut to make it snap fit. That's where it gets way technical.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, in terms of, in terms of the tabs and all of that, that I still have not completely figured out yet. So, but yeah, basically I'm just gluing everything together, and I haven't had any real trouble with it. So I kind of like not having the that stuff, or you know, the tabs any more than I have to.
Yeah, for your first rough draft, that looks great.
Yeah, I used to, 25 years ago, I did video game levels for, I don't know, a couple of years, and so it just reminded me of one of the 3D applications in there, and I was really limited. I had a top view most of the time, and that was about the only strong view. So, and this turns out to be basically the same thing. So works out. Anyway,
Nice.
That's all I got.
All right, well done. Thanks for sharing, Bill.
Thanks,
Anybody
guys.
got any comments or questions for Bill before we move on?
No, it's just that all those years of playing Doom paid off.
Ah, there
A
you
little
go.
bit. Yeah, a little bit.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
And next up is Mr. Molnar. If you want to show and tell, Gary, go ahead. damn mute button hiding from you.
Still muted.
Yeah, I've got a
There
few
we go.
pictures, some scenery I did on my track.
Okay.
Might take a few minutes to get the pictures up, but you know how it is with this iPad. I've been having problems with it.
What seems to work best for the iPad or other tablet users is to share when you hit, back on the Zoom app, you hit share and then you just share the screen. Don't try to share an app or a picture, just share the whole screen. And then you can go and do whatever. There we go. Now we're looking at your scaffolding there.
Yeah, I'm making up like a big billboard for my track, and I got some ideas from that Northline Raceway. He's got all these billboards and stuff, so I started framing up one to put on my track. So I got a couple other pictures as I added more things to it.
That looks cool.
I was gonna say that looks old school. Like you had individual pieces that you glued together, and
Yeah, it took a lot of work and a little bit of time.
I bet.
It looks great. And I'm sure it's quite strong too, Gary.
Yeah.
This is after I painted the framework.
Yeah.
Kind of made it look like aged wood and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the next step. And then the step after this is when I mounted it on a little platform and I added a bunch of billboards and stuff to it. So.
Gary, can you show the photo again? I love the figures that you've got on your track.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they were all hand painted. I did them all. Took me months to do it. Because I got like about 250 of them.
They look awesome.
They look really whenever good. I could. So I got a ton of them on my track. I wanted to make the track look like it had a lot of spectators and was popular track, or whatever you want to call it.
I really like the one with the green tie and the headphones. I'm assuming that's an announcer or something. It's cool. Very cool.
There's some track officials. They got ties, they got headphones and stopwatches and stuff, like their timing and stuff like that. It's pretty neat.
All you have to do now is put a couple of kids in your structure sitting there watching the races.
Sitting in the lattice work.
And that's after I got it done. So I put all the billboard signs on there, made a little platform base to put it on so it was nice and level, and it matched up with the groundwork I had around the sides of it.
That's gorgeous, Gary.
Yeah, that looks great.
Wow,
nice
that looks really, really good.
Around here with the clouds and the trees, that's pretty cool. You can tell it's all hand painted nicely.
Really,
yeah,
beautiful.
I love doing scenery, and every time I watch that Jimmy on that Northline videos, that Northline Raceway videos. He's doing how-to videos and stuff, so he gives you a lot of tips on how to do a lot of this artwork and stuff. Very cool. That's all I got, guys.
All right, good stuff, Gary. Thanks for sharing. And next up,
thanks.
Next up, let's go to Mr. Giprich. Brian, what you want to share?
I got a new design to share with you. Again, inspired from a thingy of the past. We'll see if you old hats can distinguish. That's not it, that's me. What car that was inspired by?
Yeah, I have one.
It looks like
I know. The asp. The asp.
That is it. That was the asp. But somehow it didn't translate quite as nice to 132nd. It's not finished yet. I have to paint the canopy. But the wheels would actually be about where the swing arms are coming out of the front. And it just looked kind of funky. So I went back to the hot rod chassis and I had to modify it a little bit. I had to widen it, and I made it for a 3-point mounting system because I didn't have room in the back. But yep, asp inspired. But I decided after it was done, it didn't look as much like a deadly snake as it looked more like an aardvark. So that's what I'm calling this one, the aardvark.
Yeah, cool.
Well,
one of the worst slot cars ever made. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know it wasn't a great performer, but I always thought it looked cool. So my rendition, so something a little different. I wanted to make some changes to it. I was going to do a little something different on the back, and I was going to redo these slots on the top, but my Tinkercad file is corrupt. It won't load. So I basically lost the design. I'm in touch with them and they're trying to restore it, but I haven't heard back from them. But
well, Brian, if you don't mind me suggesting, with the sort of two scallops you've got for the windscreen there and the long proboscis, why don't you call it the Durante?
The Durante. Because to me, it looks like a battle helmet for an aardvark from Lord of the Rings or something. It just.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't know how well you can see the vents on the side there.
Yeah.
So, and it's
Reminds me a little bit of the Grandpa Munster dragster, a little bit also. I don't know why that pops into mind.
Oh yeah, well, it's probably the coffin nose in the front. You're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
That'd be cool to make. You could make one of those out of that. That'd be nice.
I
That's all
just put a decal on the back that says I will bury you or something.
Yeah. Will work for ants. So that's all I got.
Well, you're doing some fantastic work with Tinkercad, and I'm always surprised when people do stuff like that with Tinkercad, because when I looked at Tinkercad, it just, my head doesn't work the way that Tinkercad works. So if that works for you, fantastic. But have you looked at a more powerful CAD program like Fusion 360? It's by the same company. They have a free hobbyist license, in perpetuity hobbyist license. I'm sure you could do some magic with that. But if the way that Tinkercad works for you, by all means, stick with it.
Yeah, I have looked at it and I find it overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it's, I'm not familiar with the tools. In my guitar days, all my CNC software was 2D based, program called Vectric. This one, Tinkercad, I think once you learn how to use the shapes to make other shapes, it works. So I'm actually getting faster at doing this. And the other thing I learned is there are other people who have developed tools for this. Like, for example, the sides on this car, the way I get that contour is there is a tool on there called the pipe tool, where you can specify the diameter of the pipe, whether it's square or round. You can put the bend angle in it. You can put the radius of the bend in it. You can make it the walls as thick as you want. So that's basically like a 30 millimeter pipe, solid, bent at an 85-degree angle, and then I chop it. So that's how I ended up with the rounded sides on that. So it just kind of works for me. I also found somebody made a fillet tool, which basically you can define your fillet, make it to the size and length you want it to trim that edge, and then you remove with it. It cuts away as opposed to. So yeah, I've looked at other CAD software and I just find it overwhelming. And I'm just.
Yeah, of course, all those tools are all the things that you mentioned that people made for Tinkercad users is in Fusion 360, but it works differently. You can draw. What I usually do is draw in 2D and then extrude and cut and stuff like that. But you can just create basic 3D shapes and squish them and stretch them and cut them and stuff like that, similar to Tinkercad. But Tinkercad is a great drag and drop, stretch and squash, cut and build tool. So I'm glad that it's working for you. You're making great stuff. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Hey, did you see those wheels? Did you see my email on that? My message?
I did, but I didn't go back to the model to actually look at it yet.
All right.
But I will do that. I'm still working on getting one of those cars put together. I'll show and tell it when I get it done. And thank you for sharing that with us, Brian. Okay, so I guess we're ready to move on. All right, Don has his hand up. Go ahead, Don.
Well, this goes to the 143rd folks who like to play with those. And I found a deal one day because I like to watch it early in the morning. Somebody posted a box of these.
Oh, what'd you get in that?
And we have a nice Carrera go.
COT.
Yep.
And this is a poly still.
What kind is that supposed to be? A car like a Ferrari or a Lambo or something? Or
Oh, they don't. Let's
or just
see.
some kind of
It
futuristic-
says
It's like a Bugatti, and the way the front is, like at first glance.
or just sports
it's
car.
a Nissan Concept, is what they're
Oh,
called.
okay. There you go. Concept.
I'm way off.
Now the rest of these are all Arton, from the best I can tell, but
Yeah.
all the various.
Those are so cute. They look like puppies because the wheels are so big, like big paws.
And then I guess they did a version of those.
Oh my goodness.
So I have the yellow and the red one.
Cute. I wonder if those came with a sticker sheet that you had to apply.
Probably.
Do they run, Don?
Every one of them. Anyway, I got the whole box for $10.
Wow. You stole it.
That is called a good deal. You're
So
making
that's
Ellen
all I
jealous.
have to share today. I've had a 143rd track for years, but I've never had any cars that go on it.
Well, those will work on your 132nd track anyway. So.
Oh yeah, that's what I've been running them on.
There you
But
go.
I thought it was funny, and the interest that some of our folks have with 143rd. If you keep your eyes open, you can find some nifty little deals to add to your collection.
Absolutely.
That's all I got.
All right. Thanks for sharing, Don. Does anybody else have any show and tell they want to share? You can wave your real hand if you want to. I'm watching screens for real hands. Otherwise, we'll move things along and start talking about clubs. I don't see any new faces or names to call out, and we'll just assume that if there are any, we're not going to call them out. So let's go to Club Corner. Anybody got any past, present, or future racing activity they want to report on or promote? Now is the time to do that.
Just before that, Greg, I just wanted to announce that I got a little package in the mail today.
Awesome.
Actually, that was a lie. I got it yesterday. So
you have the package in your possession today.
I do. So I took it out today and I had a bit of time today. So I spent a few hours today just opening all the little vents on the thing. So it'll look a little nicer than.
And have you had any additional communication with John McKenzie or?
Not a thing.
Okay.
Not a thing.
Okay.
If anybody's communicating with him, if he's going to print off decals, get him to print off like a few sheets for me.
Okay.
I may need some little stripes and stuff to do some patch. Like who knows what I'll need. So
yeah,
it's probably better to get an extra sheet or two right up front.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, John McKenzie, Iceman, decals, I was able to communicate with him and get him connected with Chris and John. And he's going to be doing the decal sheet for the Porsche 935 Turbo project. He said he wants a body. Did he get a body on the way?
Not yet, but I have time now to cast one for him.
Okay. So he'll before you get any decals, he's going to test them on the body and
then, you know what, I'll give him a couple then. I mean, one to test and one to build for himself then. And
that's up to you. He asked for reference pictures, so I sent him the whole kit and caboodle pack of pictures that I had. So I expect good things.
Well, the sheet that I scanned from Leo was actually pretty good. That's what. Yeah.
And I don't know, you can kind of see the pixels, obviously, because it's a high resolution scan of a pixelated.
Yeah, I did it at 600 DPI. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm either that'll print out nicely on his thing or he'll enhance it. I'm sure he's quite skilled at doing all those things. And, we'll make sure that not only does Chris get a few sheets to work with, but also you get some sheets to include with your kits for people who want that kit, because that kit pretty much only ever came with that livery on it, as far as I know. I've never seen it with any other livery in that configuration.
What's the livery, Greg?
It's the number 4 Martini.
Martini. Yep.
Yeah. If anybody wants to take on that challenge and show me that combination of fenders and nose and wing with a different livery that's not somebody's garage custom, prove me wrong.
I was just going to say, I got a blue and silver and pink one coming.
I mean, the real car, obviously. Yeah, I still think it's strange that the toy company used that specific, obscure combination of things to base their toy off of, but whatever, Anywho, that stuff out of the way. Thank you for the update, Chris. Looking forward to progress on that. And again, no rush. You do you.
Well, it's trying to open up all these little vents over the front fenders and stuff. They're about an 1/8 of an inch long and a 32nd of an inch wide. It's
meticulous.
It's not a great deal of fun.
Yeah, well, there shouldn't be too much flash in there. They were open when I cast it.
Well,
I'm getting the body done by Chris, so I'm happy.
Obviously, you want to open them more. That's great. Thanks, Chris. And I guess you also have to open up. I guess you wanted to put screen in the front nose too, right?
Yeah, screen in the nose. I'm going to open up the vents in the rear fenders, and I will probably take off the rear valence with the molded in exhaust pipes and do some little proper brass thin tubing exhaust pipes.
Oh, cool. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Very
wonderful.
Cool. Yeah, that will be awesome to see. So moving on, Big Den has his hand up. Are we going to hear about some shenanigans down under?
Certainly are. I haven't been shenanigans all that much lately. We've been between meetings, and I haven't been travelling to the south of the states. So I've just felt like making large trips for 20 minutes of racing or something like that. So yeah, but there's some action happening or about to happen or has happened. A combination of all three. So I'll share a screen here. So everyone see that there now?
Yep. Welcome to Nortaz slot car scene.
Yeah. So yeah. Firstly, I started off. I used to apologise to Jim Rose for knocking off his name. NorCal became Nortaz. Now I'm acknowledging him. In the future, I probably won't even bother mentioning him. But
I was going to say you should just blame him now. It's
my lawyer will contact you.
Well, remember, Jim, as long as he pays the royalty, who cares?
Licensing fees.
Yeah. John Kitt, just a question before I get going. Are you adding hair as a protest to everyone else removing hair, or did I see a bit of stubble and?
He's going to let it grow super long. He's going to go back to his hippie days.
Yeah, actually, it was just a matter that it's more difficult for me to get up and down stairs, so I said, the hell with it there.
Yeah. Okay, then. So moving right along there, we've got. Whoops, hang on. Let's just. Okay, some pop. Right, so we have a new. Well, it's not a new track, but one of our members has bought a track that was up for sale on one of our local marketplaces recently, and he's been working on getting it going, and plagiarism abounds again. So because he lives in a suburb called Lagana, I decided we would call the track Lagana Seca. Just a little bit of a variation on Laguna, of course. And last Saturday we had 8 people turn up, and the track when Dave got it was a little bit worse for wear, and he's done a fantastic job in getting it going. So I've probably shared a picture of the track before. That's basically what it looks like. So
it's 3 lanes, Big Den?
It's 3 lanes. That was you, John. Yep, there's 3 lanes. It's around about a 60-foot lap length. Dave put pinstriping tape around all the lanes to mark the colours. And so from that experience, he tells me that the blue lane is 900 millimeters, or about 3 feet longer than the red lane. But of course, when we all run on different lanes, it equalizes out. So the direction of travel is from this end closest to you down the main straight to the left. And we've got a little bit of a hairpin with a slight bank on it at the bottom of the picture. And then back down the inside straight. The S's on the right of the picture are about the trickiest part of the track, but it was a little bit slippy first up, but once we got some rubber laid down, it was a fairly nice track to run on. So being based on Laguna Seca with the name anyway, I had to have a corkscrew.
Yeah, he did a great job on the track. I don't even need to see the before to see that he did a great job.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic. Yeah, so it's means we'll have 2 tracks to race on our roster now in the local area. So just some pictures there. Just a little. He's got his computer equipment and his display screen with the scoring and timing on it there. That's not Dennis Sampson in the back. It's one of our local racers.
There's a guy local to me that looks just like that.
Yeah. Unless, what do they call them? Doppelgangers? Is it something like that when you've got a double somewhere? Yeah. I'll just move on. Right, so there's Dave is the guy on the left there, the track owner, and a long-time racer in the middle, Chris, and one of our up-and-coming youngsters is young Bill there. So he's a regular racer with us. He's a great nephew of the other track owner. So
does young Bill have a good time? Is he enjoying it?
Oh yes, yeah. He enjoys it. He enjoys it particularly when he beats his grandfather and his great uncle when he's racing. So and he's doing it with on a more regular basis these days. So that's we're looking. The red car in the front is just going through the S's. That's the tricky little bit there. Okay. Oh, I'm right clicking instead of left clicking. I don't know where I got that from. So that's just another look from that side of the track with a couple of the guys around. It's a fairly big shed, so
it looks like he's starting to landscape it, Big Den.
That landscaping was with it when he bought it, John. So he was fairly fortunate there. So most of that landscaping was already done. So that was quite handy for him. That's it's just coming out of the S's down to the bottom end of the track. You can see he built some pit bench over the back there. That was built specially for us, and a couple of pit boxes there. The two to the vertical ones. The one on the right is mine. But they're made out of and the other guy that was in the middle of the earlier picture, they're made out of just sort of three layers of storage trays with just an aluminium frame around them and a handle on the top. So that was we used to call them chicken feed boxes because that was a discount store that supplied them in the old days. So they're quite handy. Just another look down towards the pits. Bit closer look at the pits and the storage boxes.
That's a nice little facility.
Yeah.
Very nice.
He hasn't got a fridge yet for the beer though, Dennis. I don't know whether you'd be able to handle it.
Oh, that disqualifies it immediately.
Yeah, forget about it.
Yeah. That's a look back from the bottom end. It looks like a heck of a long way, but of course, that's just the trick of the camera. And
Sorry, Big Dan, I thought lack of beer in Australia was just illegal.
Oh, he didn't say there was a lack of beer. He just said there was a lack of cold beer.
Lack of cold beer.
They got coolers in there.
Do they have kegs in Australia? You guys should have a keg.
A kegerator.
You get the garbage can.
Big Dan, you're saying that this picture makes the track look bigger than it really is, but it's got to be at least 20 feet long, right?
Oh yeah, yes. There's a lot of us. Yeah, the two straights form a significant part of the lap length. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, the chap in the hat is the owner of the other track. That's the famous Grumpy from Grumpy's Garage. We just about needed a crowbar or a pinch bar or whatever you call them to get young Bill off the track. He was he got his value out of the day. Just a close look at the turn one. And again, there's Chris pulled out his fly truck and gave it a few laps around. So
it looks like it's braid as opposed to copper tape. Is that correct?
It is braid. Yeah, it is braided. Yeah. Oh, you can see there's a nice little building there near the light bridge where the counters are. Just a look from where I was sitting down in the pit area, and the chap in the hat there, Cameron, he helped Dave set the track up. They've been friends for quite a few years. So,
and you brought a grid. Somebody brought a grid girl.
That's I think that's Cameron's lady friend. So I've known all these kids since they were early teenagers. I've known Chris there, the guy with his back to, in the red jacket with his back to us. I've known him probably for 45 years. So, and the other two I've known since they were 13 or 14 years. They've been friends for a long time. So, cool. Complimenting themselves on a wonderful job they've done, I think there.
Yeah.
I made some smart ass remark about them bringing out the piano stool, to use to put on. In fact, it was from Dave's daughter's organ that she used to play, so I wasn't far off the mark. And
I thought it was for praying.
For praying.
What was that, Henry?
Praying.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm not sure I was pointing towards a certain Middle Eastern town or not. Yeah. I'll just stop the share there. And a couple of questions. Henry, I did see your video of Brian's Stiletto, was it? Yeah, Stiletto car. But I got onto it on my phone purely by accident. I've Googled your name, and I never get any results when I Google your name. But every now and then my phone just turns up a video from Henry, and I'm happy to see them. There was one of the most recent one you were using a drone, I think, somewhere. And so just a question to anyone, what's this? I don't subscribe to anything. So what's subscribing and how do you go about it?
Well, first you have to have a Google or YouTube account.
Got one of them.
So it's tracked, okay? Then usually below the video, if you're on a mobile device, scroll up a little bit, and there's usually going to be a subscribe button. The thing is that when you normally open the YouTube app, it just shows videos that it thinks you want to see. So you got to tap subscriptions down at the bottom to see videos provided by the people you subscribe to.
Yeah. Now, does that cost you money?
Nope, it's free.
Oh, okay then. Yeah.
Oh, and you can upload videos for free too, as well.
Okay.
Just to make it easier on you and everybody else, I put the link to Henry's YouTube channel in the chat. I'll put it in the description, so you can go and subscribe to Henry's channel and see his slot car content.
Yep. Oh, that's great then. Right. Oh, that'll do me. I don't need anything more than.
Well, Big Dan,
you still got about 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, no, okay. But Big Den, between, Greg's channel, Area 51, my channel, and Jim's, and you got some subscribing to do.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Boone Swat Car Garage, Dave Kennedy's channel, Travis's channel.
Home Racing World. That's the one.
Yeah. I see quite a bit from Home Racing World. I just seem to be able to find them a lot easier than some of the others. Which is,
I welcome everybody to put your favorite YouTube channel video link in the description and or in the chat here, and I'll get it in the description so we can help spread the love. Most of the people that are viewing this already know about those other channels. I can't imagine that this is going to increase their viewership all that much, but it's convenient to hit a link. That's what the web is all about. So thank you, Dan, for sharing. It sounds like you're done.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm done.
Awesome. Okay, great. Anybody else have any club-related things, past, present, or future they want to talk about? If not, I'm gonna bring up a cool thing that I saw. Actually, I wanted to talk about one other thing. It has been a year since I went to the Quarrel in Wisconsin. The Quarrel is happening again right now, and you can actually go to his channel. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. There we go. You can go to his channel. I'll put a link in the chat and the description. And he's broadcasting live. Basically, today is just practice day, just like it was when I went last year. Tomorrow they're going to start actually qualifying and racing and stuff like that. So he's been just kind of randomly switching between tracks, but he's got this huge broadcast system you might remember from last year. So anytime there's a race happening at one of the tracks, he'll obviously put the camera on that track. But right now you can just kind of go and see, you can even go back in time to see them playing on different tracks. Looks like they've been on yellow track for a while, but they had purple track. This is a cat spa ring recreation. And it's just fun to see the guys race an HO.
And there he is.
This from this morning. That's Michael Block right there.
This is a commercial track somewhere up there?
These are in his house, dude.
What?
These are in his basement.
Oh, wait, they're HO. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
But they are,
Yeah, they're commercial grade HO.
Yeah. These are all Brad's tracks. So if you're familiar with Brad's tracks as the track builder, he builds HO, obviously, but he also builds other scales. But yeah, go a year ago on the Zoom chats and you'll see, me broadcasting live from that event last year and talking all about it and stuff like that. That's happening right now. It's a lot of fun. Go check it out if you're interested in seeing that happen.
Yellow track is challenging.
Oh my God, they're all challenging. I mean, purple, like I said, is an adaptation recreation of the cat spa ring. There's all kinds of technical purple track, and I think, yellow is the only one that's not a figure eight. All the other three have a loop somewhere, so that you're having to battle guys, technically with the same length lane as you, but they're all great tracks. You've driven on the yellow track before, Jim?
Yeah, I've been to the Quarrel twice. Yeah.
You've been to the Quarrel twice, yeah.
When I was there, they were all 4 lanes except the yellow track, and now he's got all those 6-lane versions of the 4-lane tracks.
Yeah. So like I said, cool event. If you're an HO enthusiast, then you should check out the Quarrel in the future and participate because it's fun. I'm not even an HO racer, and I had a lot of fun, and I didn't lose. That's always a plus. The other thing that I wanted to show, see if I still have it on my thing here, is some of you may know Ed Bianchi, HORacePro on various forums. He's working on a cool project with 3D printed torque Allen key wrenches. So this is his current bunch that he put together. He's still in testing to make sure everything works as expected, but they're using standard Allen keys, and he even got a torque, see if I can scroll down to it. He even got a torque watch in order to make sure that he measures the correct torque for each of the wrenches. And so for the 0.28, which I believe is the slotted size, he's making that comparably measured torque with the slotted torque wrench. and then he's bumping the other two up a little at a time.
Torque limiting, right, Craig? Torque limiting wrenches, is that what those are called?
Torque limiting, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the 0.28, he's targeting 9 feet-pounds or whatever feet.
It's foot-pounds. Yeah. Foot-pounds.
Yeah, it's less because it's on such
Inch pounds. I think it's inch pounds.
Inch pounds. That's what he did. Yeah, yeah. So he's doing inch pounds because it's not foot pounds. It's a very small amount of foot pounds. So inch pounds. Anyways, you can go to the HRW forum. I'll put a link into the chat so you can check out that thread. I'm getting some hopefully to test out and provide feedback on, but as far as I can tell, they're good to go. And the nice thing is that since it's a standard Allen key, if you end up rounding off the end of it, just grind it down and you've got a fresh tip to keep using until you don't have any Allen key left, at which point he'll explain how to replace it. But
it's just got a screw in the end of it.
It's got a screw. I think I'm guessing that's also part of the torque adjustment. So I don't know. He has not yet provided how to replace the Allen key instructions, but I don't think that's going to be an issue for most users. I mean, my slotted wrench is still going okay. So
that 028 Allen key must be an HO size because it's not a slotted size.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
Because 035 is the smallest one that anybody uses in 1/32 scale.
Well, there you go. Something to go look at. I'm getting a set because I want some torque wrenches for other sizes than just my slotted one. And I hate that tiny little thing. I'm always dropping it, and yeah. So looking forward to having better torque wrenches. Yes. Go ahead, Dennis.
No, that was all.
Okay. So let me put the link to there. So the floor is open. If there's anything that you want to talk about or ask about or show or tell about, bring it up. Go ahead. Raise your hand. Wave your hand. Just start talking. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, I suppose we could just talk about the slotted nationals that are coming up at Electric Dreams.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Isn't it? How long away is it?
12th, 13th, 14th of August.
Oh, so only a month.
Yeah, it's just a month away. All the details are on the Electric Dreams website these days. Entry forms, registrations, the whole deal. The entry is going to be limited to 72 people. I initially thought that was a wildly optimistic limit. Currently, it looks like it's a mildly optimistic limit because we've got over 40 already. So yeah, I guess a lot of people are working on that right now. Maurizio Ferrari from Slotted is going to be there. He'll be racing with us. The Friday night there's a sit and chat with him that is going to be good. I don't know if you can get to it from there.
I was going to say, where do I get to it? I clicked
on.
You
go back to the homepage.
You'll be on the homepage.
Yeah, and click. Click on that. Click there. Right.
Silly me. Went to the races page.
Yeah. And there's
I asked my wife, and she said, "Okay," but then I look at the ticket. 1,450 euros.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of money. All right, so everybody can order up to 3 handout motors. On the Friday, there's the track call, the chat with Maurizio. That's free, but you need to register for it because there's limited space. And then on the Saturday after qualifying, there's going to be a couple of tours of the LA Slot Car Museum, which you would need to sign up for. It's a 2-hour tour. There's 2 of them, one at 4 and one at 6. And there's a shuttle available from Electric Dreams up to the museum and back. If anybody's coming and they haven't been to the museum, you absolutely have to do that. It's an experience of a lifetime.
Scroll down a little bit, Greg.
It's great to see.
If you go to the rule book, and then you scroll down to the rules, a couple of pages down. Right, keep going, keep going. Oh, I think you went past it.
What am I looking for?
Overall rules.
My name.
Keep going down. Overall rules. Keep going down. You got to go down. Right there. Overall rules.
Oh, he's telling you where the track, the picture of the track is. Keep going. I know what he's referring to there.
Yeah, go up just a little bit.
Right there where it says something about this. I thought it was in there where maybe just below that.
Did they ban you, Jim
Below
Rose?
the
Is that why your
picture,
name's
there
in there?
was something in there about.
Go up to the next page, to the very top of that rules page. I think.
There it is. Jim Rose holds.
Yeah, yeah. When I first read the rules, I kind of freaked myself out.
Oh, humble brag. Is that what we did all that scrolling for a humble brag?
I didn't do it. I just pointed it out.
It's all right. That's pretty cool.
Nice looking rule book. I like the.
This looks like it's going to be one of the best races I've ever attended in any scale. What Marco has done with all the different events and so on, it looks going to be awesome. Just fly in. They'll pick you up at the airport in the shuttle and bring you over, race, go back home, go back to the airport and fly home.
Yeah.
Can you go back up to that picture of that motor?
And prizes.
What did they seal it with? Like,
Yeah,
is that-
we had a special heat sink sleeve printed and made so that we could seal the motors.
So it's like tamper proof.
Yeah.
Cool. Neat. I wish we'd find something that for like our club or our events too.
The interesting thing about the sealed motors is you will be able to get them before the race. And so you can tune them, break them in as long as the seal's not broken.
Yeah.
Which
You're
is
going to
kind
get them looking
different.
right like that. So if you are going to come down and you're going to use an older slotted car, remember you need to have the wire that will plug into that new slotted plug in the car.
So that comes with the motor.
What's the entry fee?
I know that the piece that's soldered to the motor comes with it. I'm not sure whether the other piece comes with it. If it does, then that's just a bonus.
And there are three. If it doesn't, there are three for $6.
Yeah, they're not expensive.
I only think the connection is a terrible idea.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
it's their rules. I agree with you, but that's their rules.
Well, it's a terrible idea if you're a flat out racer.
But if you have to change the motor on the fly, that would be handy, wouldn't it?
And if you're a manufacturer and you want to offer a plug and play conversion to
correct.
A digital chip or an oxygen chip, then it makes sense to have that.
Well, it'd be convenient too if you get a bad motor, you could just unplug it and put another one in.
Yeah, fortunately, you're going to have enough time. You're going to have enough time to decide what your motors are going to be. The thing that people will have to remember is once you've qualified on the Saturday, your car is going to be impounded until the Sunday morning.
Impounded.
It's going to be in parc fermé. You won't be able to work on it.
But if your motor fails during the racing, then you get to go to an overseen pit area to do your thing. Yeah.
And I mean, like all rules, it's pretty strict up front, but when we get to the day, it may not be quite as draconian as it sounds.
Cloverleaf also has something going on the East Coast as well.
Yeah, Cloverleaf have got the NSR Nationals coming up in October. I think
for the guys on the
first
East
or the
Coast,
second weekend of October.
Nice.
And that's NSR Nationals, and those rules are also out now. That's going to be a good event as well. The big difference between the two events is that at the slotted Nationals, rear wheels and tires are free. At the NSR Nationals, the tires are hand out quick slick silicone. You get a choice of the sizes, but you have to use the quick slick silicones that are handed out, which makes for an interesting experience for those of us who don't often run with silicone. It's a pretty steep learning curve. Not only tuning the car, but learning to drive cars with silicone tires. It's very different.
And you probably won't, because the tires are being handed out at the event, right? So you don't have time to glue and true. The silicone would take.
Yeah, well,
You don't want a true silicone, trust me. It takes too long.
You can
I've done
try,
it.
but you won't get very far. And as far as I know, you're not allowed to glue them on. They've got to be slip on. But I mean, you still will be able to put them onto the wheels and knock off the edges and things like that. There's nothing in the rules that says you can't glue them, but there's nothing that says you can glue them either. So the fronts can be glued and trued, obviously. The rears can be trued if you want to true them, but as George says, it takes a bit of time.
No, I've done them. They take a long time, and you use I've done it on the truer behind me, and you use the drywall paper because it has the larger gaps. If you use regular sandpaper, it'll clog up, and you'll be frustrated, and it takes a long time. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Anyway, so that'll be a good event. It's been a while since I was there, so I can't comment on the new track. They changed the track at Cloverleaf. They have a mini king now.
So why do we still have the rubber versus silicone debate? Like, is there no clear winner? I've always thought silicone was just better because you buy it once, you're done. Pretty much.
Now you're opening a can of worms.
Yeah.
Well,
that's always been the
let's
debate.
maybe hold that can of worms off.
Put it this way,
rubber.
there's a clear winner at every club.
There you go. Exactly.
But the winner is different at different clubs.
So it's just basically club preferences. Have never.
I think so.
Settled on anything.
Most of the guys in the Midwest to the East Coast.
Oh, we lost him.
So they're kind of level, but out west we all run rubber.
Yeah.
Except for in Greg's area, they run foam.
Foam rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can certainly talk about that more. But Garth has his hand up. What do you want to talk about, Garth?
I just have a question. I was goofing around taking some photos of slot cars the other day, and I was using a piece of Carrera track to use as the background. And I, it was an old scummy piece of track, and I said, okay, I'm going to clean this thing up. And I cleaned it up, and I thought to myself, gee whiz, maybe I should try some future wet, clear on it. Okay. And so I did that. Okay. I took some clear after I had cleaned it off completely, and I put clear on it, and then I rubbed the clear down. Okay. I mean, vigorously. Okay. To create a kind of a matte finish to it. Okay. And then let it dry. In fact, I almost rubbed it till it was dry. Okay. And as I was doing it, I started thinking, no, wait a minute now. I wonder if anybody's done that before, because I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is the piece, and I started thinking about track painting. Okay. And the thought came, well, gee whiz, people paint their tracks with latex acrylic. Future is acrylic.
Latex.
Latex and acrylic are two different things.
Yeah, but isn't acrylic in latex? Acrylic latex.
No, latex is in latex emulsion.
Right.
Okay.
They're two different things. I mean, maybe there's some.
So my question is, has anybody ever tried it? Because I started goofing around with it, comparing it to, using silicone tires. So sorry about that. And kind of just pushing the car around on it. Okay. And without magnets, obviously. And it appears like it actually, at least with silicones, okay, that it actually might have a slightly a better grip advantage than the regular raw piece of Carrera track. And I just wondered if anybody had ever thought of it or tried it, or just on a piece of black everyday track, instead of painting.
I mean, you're the first person I've seen to do that. Chris, have you seen people doing that?
I've done tons of tracks I've done tons of Carrera tracks with latex.
Yeah.
Which is probably a much better option if you're running rubber and or urethane tires. Silicone tires always, I mean, if you could have a glass track, that would be the best grip you're ever going to get with silicone. So using some clear gloss of anything, if you're exclusively going to run with silicones, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, was that there's not a very deep texture on Carrera, but there is a texture, and by basically letting a thin product like Clear or Future even out, providing more surface area for the tires to grip on. That alone would improve grip, and then maybe the acrylic, the nature of the acrylic itself is also helping.
Well, I mean, it'll do some stuff. I mean, Carrera's styrene track, and it develops a static charge, which attracts dust. So anytime you put paint or acrylic or some sort of top coating on a styrene track, you greatly reduce that tendency to get any sort of a static charge. So the track will not attract dust as much. So, it'll be a little bit cleaner long term, and dust is a disaster for silicone tires. So
doesn't acrylic develop a charge though? Because I remember in science class, he would be taking an acrylic rod and rubbing like deer skin on it to build up a charge. You guys remember that? Like Mr. Science kind of stuff?
Well, just what you do then is don't rub deer skin on your
Go get me some deer skin now, man.
It was when I was a kid.
Can I go over to Garth's track and rub deer skin all over it just to make it attract dust?
I can see the slot car meme right now.
Use deer skin.
Sacrifices for science.
Yeah, let us know. Do some more track, Garth, and let us know.
Yeah, try it and see.
I was thinking about people with scale electric track. A lot of people don't like the kind of,
if it works on Carrera, it probably would work on Scalextric. The main question is with Scalextric, since it's flexible, is would the clear break off at some point? Would it start to flake?
Yeah.
So.
Because it bends easier, right? The scale electric track is
the way it was,
you need something flexible that adheres it.
Well, Carrera track styrene and scale electric tracks polypropylene based. So, and that's really tough to paint.
Yeah, but I wonder if it's tough to put clear on. Okay, and
try
because I'm thinking about the application.
Clear is paint.
Yeah, but the application wasn't. It was more of a buffing, drying application than it was a painting application. You follow what I'm saying?
You applied a very, 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 very thin amount, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and then I buffed it till it was dry.
Kind of like when you're buffing a car, is what you're saying. You're buffing it into the surface.
Yeah, and the idea was that I didn't want it to be overly shiny. You know what I mean? And
that's. If the goal is extra grip, then I say you do some more experimenting. Just get a piece of track and just go ahead and paint that stuff on and let it be shiny. And then see
I want to get my test engineer to do that. No Mag Mike.
No Mag. Well, he can do it on Sport, but he doesn't have Carrera. You're gonna have to do it on Carrera, and he doesn't run silicones, so I don't know what that's gonna do.
Well, yeah, but maybe it's maybe it wouldn't work with rubber too. I don't know. Just a thought. Okay. It looks way cool. I can tell you that. Okay.
Because it's less shiny than it used to be?
Well, no, it's not so much that it's less shiny. It makes it look like it's a brand new piece of track, only with a more of a matte type finish. Okay. As opposed to a out of the box plastic look.
Most people I know with Carrera want to get rid of that dang stripe going up and down all the track.
Yeah, I don't have me one bit.
It doesn't bother me either, and I have 200 feet of it, so it'd be. I would dread the idea of trying to paint it. Okay, so
it's not that hard. I mean, you slap some blue tape over the rails, run a blade along the rail, pull off the excess, and slap on some paint. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Why haven't I done it on my track? Because I'm lazy. No, don't ask questions.
Hey, Greg.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's a question on the chat. It's from Joe Atkins. He's asking something. I don't know if you noticed it. I don't know if he's got a mic or not, but
I didn't have
something
time to
about
read
latency, and I don't know. You might want to look at.
Let's hear. Wonder what folks think about internet latency allowing for distance racing where drivers can zoom. Oh, okay, yeah. That topic comes up from time to time. The internet latency is short enough these days that you might be able to make it happen, but the problem is, as soon as just like in a first-person shooter video game, which I don't play, but I know about it. As soon as somebody's got too much latency, they're dead. They might as well just quit right then and there, because they're just getting shot up by all the guys who don't have the latency. So you could be racing along, and then for whatever reason, your neighbor turns on his cable box or whatever, and you just boom, you have a glitch. You're coming off in that turn, and then what are you going to do? It wasn't my fault. It was the internet's fault. And you've got to have video too. You got to have low latency, highly, HD quality video so that you can see your car that you're controlling afar. I don't think it's ever going to get.
You'd have to host it on your own servers with a huge internet pipe. And then the latency is going to be each user trying to upload fast enough while also downloading fast enough the video. So you think it can be done, but you'd have to host it, and it'd get messy real quick.
And beyond that, you've got if it's a digital track, depending on how you're doing it, if it's a digital track, then you're going to have your lane changers. So how's that going to work when you're changing lanes and you're having to factor in, okay, well, who's responsible? Who's responsible for that crash at that point? I just see too many problems. I like the idea, and I'd love to see it, but I can't see it.
Years ago, Scalextric did something like that with Sports World. I never had it, so I don't know how much of that it did, but I seem to recall one of its features that they were marketing was being able to use the internet to have races with people. I don't know. Did anybody here ever have a Sport World system? They pretty much ditched.
No, but I imagine it works so well that nobody's using it now.
I was gonna say, they pretty much ditched that. The next year is when they came out with digital. In fact, their first digital power base looks a lot like the Sport World base. So they basically just transferred a bunch of the industrial design from the Sport World product over to their digital product.
At that point, it's really just a slot car video game. Really, you might as well like Grand Theft Auto, improve your car and all that. I mean,
yeah.
But even looking at that video we were just watching, the live stream from his, it's still kind of choppy, and there's nobody trying. It's just people watching it, so it's all from YouTube. So if you can't beat YouTube's buffering, you're not going to do that on your home system.
Yeah. The closest thing that I've participated into that was when a few years ago, RCS 64 for Scalextric Digital had a feature where it could upload your race stats to a server that could then show other people racing simultaneously. So we had a worldwide race where I think we had 4 teams around the world, and we all raced the same track. So we as a group, we designed a layout that everybody could reproduce, prescribed, where the lane changers are, where the power base, lap counter is, where you're allowed to put borders and stuff like that. And then all 4 of these groups set that exact track up, and we tried to coordinate the starting of that race. Nobody was racing via internet, but everybody was racing locally, but then all the stats went via internet to the server that then showed basically simultaneously. I think it was a 4-hour or 6-hour endurance race. So you could see the stats of all 4 intermingled, who was ahead of who, versus me in Washington and somebody else in England or whatever. Even that had all kinds of technical glitches. So I wouldn't even these days, even these days, I wouldn't attempt to do a race from afar kind of situation. But hey, maybe someday in the future, if it exists. Hopefully I wasn't too much of a downer on that idea. Go ahead and give it a try. I don't know. He said Slothead is his handle. So I don't know. I don't know everything. Much as people think I think.
I have a question, unless anybody else is going.
Fire away.
On the Ninco Classics, has anybody seen chassis for the Jaguar? They have the front motor Jaguar. Has anybody made like a compatible chassis for that thing? Because that's like the only Ninco Classic I don't have, and well, I have one, but I can't race it because it's just the front motor stinks. So.
Well, actually, I don't think they made Ninco made it with a front motor. I think Auto Art did, but not.
No,
talking about the E-Type Jaguar, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought it was.
No, it's okay.
Sorry.
Long nose E.
Is it a clamshell chassis or is it?
No, it's not. But it is a front motor.
Yeah.
It was just weird. For no reason they said, we're gonna make a front motor on this one, and then okay, it's hard enough keeping up with their motor changes. I got all that sorted out, making my own adapters and everything's equal now, but that car's just never gonna be equal.
Jeremy, have you looked on Shapeways for that?
Yeah, I looked on a few, but I haven't actually found one for the Jaguar. That one I found it. They have two Jaguars. The longer one they do have a body for, but even then it converts it into like a slotted pod, and I'm like, well, that's not really compatible with the old Ninco Classics, So I was hoping somebody, and maybe somebody watching this video will have the actual the E-Type. Well, yeah.
Which one is it?
The E-Type. The XK120 is probably one of their top Nincos. That goes well against the Corvette. Those two are pretty evenly matched. But that E-Type's just dreadful.
So like this one here, E-Type?
Yeah, that one.
It's a cool car.
It's a cool car. It's too bad they ruined it. But
yeah, they also put Porsche inserts in it too, which is really weird.
It looks like
I can handle that, John. I'm not that much of a snob, but I just can't handle the front motor.
So this one looks like it has a clamshell chassis. So even if you wanted to change the chassis, you'd have to chop off all the clamshell bits.
I was hoping somebody had already done it, but oh well, maybe not.
You always build one for it.
Yeah.
There you go. If anybody out there knows of one, put it in the comments below, and we'll help Jeremy out with his future project.
Thank you, guys.
So kind of back on Club Corner, and since you brought up Ninco Classics, and I recently bought more Ninco Classics because I wanted to suggest it to the club for our upcoming series. I brought a couple of the cars, and one of the cars that I brought was put up for the King of the Hill, and so we raced the Ninco Testarossa. Is the one that got put on the track for King of the Hill, and everybody had a great time. And the specs are super easy, just bone dry, out in the sun, nothing for years and years, stockity stock Ninco Classic with NC1 cars. The kick in the pants is that I want to run that car that I got that has the NC whatever, not the same form factor, and I have not yet exhausted all avenues of finding the NC8 that fits in that car. So I have not been able to do my own testing to figure out if the NC8 is acceptably near to the performance of the NC1s within their tolerance range. But it looks like people are stoked about that, and so we'll probably be racing Ninco Classics in a couple of months.
We probably have 30 or 40 guys running Ninco Classics, and probably a third of them run NC8s, and they run dead even with the NC1s. So,
and that's what there's a big long report on that comparison on HRW as well. So it sounds like and basically I put on the spec sheet NC1 or NC8.
Yeah. No, no difference at all.
No difference at all. Yeah.
Oh, what I did, because I love the Ninko Classics, but like I said, you can't race them. So I made my own. I think I sent Dewan one, a little adapter. But anyway, on AliExpress, I found motors for that were rear can for like $1. So I just bought like 30 of them. Do what?
Hold your adapter back up, the car.
The front.
Okay.
The little, just a little spacer there.
That was a car that took the long can.
Right. If it already had the short can, like the let's see, there's a ton of them. Like this one already has the short can, so you're good to go. And just once I converted everything to short can, then everything's 14,000 RPM now with hardly any torque, and they run fine. But it's such a cool class. I don't know why they stopped making it, or why hasn't anybody bought that and taken it over?
Yeah, the NC8 is a short can square motor.
Yeah. So, I know you got it's like chopped off with the plastic's chopped off.
Yeah, I don't want to chop up my car to put a regular NC1 in there.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll figure it out. But yeah, so looking forward to running that class. That should be fun. And I went back to dig up the specs from the last time we ran it, and the last time we ran it was 2010. Time flies. I could have sworn it was more recent than that, but that was the last time we ever talked about Ninko 1 for our club, for our series. It was like the second or third series we ran after we formed this particular club. So yeah, the guys are ready for a Ninko 1 class again.
What's everyone think of the new Thunderslot Mustang?
I think it looks fantastic. Harry's
so do I. It kind of opens a lot of doors too for more American Iron, because I mean you need a match for that car. Obviously, the next one would be the Camaro. And I think if this goes well, that one that they showed is a prototype. It wasn't really a production car that Harry put out, but I thought it was a pretty cool looking car. And of course, the chassis looks familiar. I like that. I'm glad they're doing some American Iron. That's kind of nice about that.
I think
looks a little squished.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but I mean, like I said, that's a prototype car. Who knows how the real one, the final one will look like? So you got to keep that in consideration. So
probably look pretty much the same.
I think you'll find that when they come out, they look exactly like that. They're not going to make a new mold for a different body for 500 things. That is the car. It's done.
Does anybody know why did they pick that car? Because that car doesn't really have a racing history, does it?
Well,
so why that one? Like, there's hundreds of different cars from the under 2 liter era that would have been European cars that made it, and I'd have definitely bought like a BMW 2002 or something. But
I read somebody actually commissioned that car, but I could be wrong. But I thought I read that on one of the forums that somebody said, "We want you to build this for us."
Oh, okay.
You could always throw a number
in 60 seconds. Come on,
racing car,
badass looking car.
Also, find out who that was, because that guy's got money to throw around.
Not exactly that one.
That's true. It wasn't exactly like the one on screen.
Yeah, it wasn't Eleanor. You need to modify the front end.
I would expect them to come out with an Eleanor variation.
Super Snake?
Yeah.
That's a different car.
It's a Shelby. It's a Shelby, right?
Well, it's actually,
but it's a 67.
Molded after a Shelby. It's not really a Shelby.
I mean, that's what it's supposed to be, is a Shelby, not just a stock Mustang.
Just with a little bit of steroids added to it, just put it that way.
A nice interpretation for slot track performance.
Performance licensing.
Performance. Yeah, I'll probably get one. I think they look really cool. I'm not super upset about inaccuracy. So
green one is
I think we'll all get one regardless. None of us can say no to a new slot car.
That's true too. Besides, the chassis is new to us, old to it's old to you guys, but new.
Well, it's an old idea, but it's a new interpretation that was going to be interesting to see how it works.
Yeah.
I took one look at that and thought to myself, I have probably 4 CAD files sitting in my CAD system that look almost identical to that, and I've never bothered to print them.
Great. It will certainly, everybody who goes on and on and on and on and on about motor pods will certainly realize that motor pods are, they'll change their tune once they, run that.
Run that one.
Once they
I
run the
agree.
thunder slot, yeah.
Do we think it will run especially well?
It's the prototype.
I think it'll run great.
Yeah,
I'm
the
buying
chassis design's been around since
Long time.
God, ages, early 80s.
Oh,
Well, since Cox brought out the Isofilm Cucaracha, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah, it should work well.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else got anything they want to bring up? Circle back on?
Well, is there any reason they haven't used that style chassis in 132nd cars before?
Well, I mean, motor pods work unbelievably well from a production standpoint.
Yeah.
So if you're producing limited amounts of things, being able to flip motor pods around is a great thing. The thunder slot Mustang chassis, if you want to offer inlines, angle winders, different offsets, it's a lot more costly now. If you just make a chassis plate and just bolt in some motor pods to it, I mean, that was always done from a production point of view. It was never done from a performance point of view.
And Brian, there are cars like that. If you look for the Dream Slot range of cars from Osterera, that was a range of thingies. And the Dream Slot chassis looks very similar, except it's an inline.
Right.
I like it.
Yep.
Just
Well,
so everybody else on the
I
internet
like it a lot.
I'm going to have to see it in the flesh before I decide.
Just making
Yeah,
sure
I think part of the problem was too that a lot of us thought we were getting a GT350. And as soon as that happened, when we saw this, we said, oh no. And of course, then started to realize, hang on, it's not supposed to be a GT350. Okay.
Well, it does look like a GT350, a 67, 68 style though.
Yeah, but that's not a real GT350.
Yeah, it is.
Who cares? It's a Mustang.
Shelby produced
That's how I
it.
look at it.
Who cares? It's a Mustang. Yeah, pretty much.
But Shelby did produce the 67 and 60, I believe 68. I'm not positive on that, but I know 67 for sure. And that's a pretty accurate.
Who's the gentleman in the photographs you just showed?
That's the thunder slot.
Guy who runs Thunderslot.
Giovanni.
Giovanni, something. Yeah. That's a cool looking car. I don't care. I like it.
It does. It looks better.
I'll definitely buy a couple of them.
There we go. That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah. So the mold of the part that takes the motor is much bigger than a motor pod. So, but at least it's a different piece, right? I mean, they should only need to change that piece for different motor configurations, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but that's a more material, more run costs, more blah blah blah. So
yeah, and not literally every car in their entire collection takes it. It's
Right.
going to be, their.
So you also have to put your body mounting posts in the body shell in the same place time after time after time to not be needing to change the side pans. But you're going to need to change the side pans because you've got the word GT350 in there.
You got to remember also maybe a licensing thing also, because I mean, I don't know if they're charging them a license fee for using the GT350, and you never know.
GT350 by itself will not lead any license.
Yeah, those are.
Well, that's a good thing then. But you never know.
And this would be an injection.
As long as it doesn't say Shelby.
Well,
Okay.
right. As long as if you put
Or
Mustang
Ford.
GT350, that's a different story. But GT350 means nothing to anybody. It's just.
Yeah. Besides this bit right here would be an easily removable piece of an injection mold that could be switched out for any different car they want to make with the same chassis. That's pretty common for injection molding.
Yeah.
So how do we think the ball bearing? I notice it's not provided with any ball bearings or any traction magnets.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, typical Thunderslot then.
So how do we think the ball bearing thing is going to work on plastic sectional track?
Not very well.
Revo slots work great on plastic sectional track. So
Not with ball bearings
No,
sticking down under the ears of the chassis and hitting.
oh,
on
the
every
front
little-
things. Okay, the front
The
things. Sorry
front
about
things, yeah.
Yeah.
that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I
And
guess I'll
that's-
find out.
Bring on more American cars. That's all I can say.
Well, make sure you buy them all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, build 1/25th scale ones if you don't like what it looks like. That's what I always go with.
Well, if you got to buy them all for him to make more.
Yep.
Yep. All right, Big Dan, what you want to say?
I was just harking back to the Electric Dreams racing. I watched a fair bit of the Can-Am race that was on live the other day. Jim, were you down there for that Can-Am race, or Jim still there? Oh.
I think
No,
he
I just-
came down for the Can-Am race, the last
Yeah,
Electric Dreams.
Yeah, I noticed that Rick Jockum did pretty well. He was
Better than pretty well.
Yeah, he seemed like he had quite an advantage over the other guys racing in his race.
Rick is a multi-time HO national champion,
yeah.
and his car preparation and driving skills are pretty legendary. So yeah, it's not unusual that he's up there already.
Yeah.
Yeah, and more specifically, HO. Maybe he drives the Mega G stuff, but fray cars, gravity
Freight cars and T-jets, yeah.
Yeah. So he knows how to drive a magless, a performance magless car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other good thing about it was watching, being able to put faces to some of the names that Jim's done in his reports. We've seen the results with names like Bob Hooley and the other regulars, and but actually to see them racing and. It was very interesting. I was watching it on my phone for a start, and then it told me I'd reached my daily data limit, so I had to kick in Wi-Fi. But it was enjoyable. Yeah, no, that was. I just sort of thought I'd pose the question, let you know I'd seen the race.
I mean, people in that area are lucky to have Electric Dreams doing that. That looks like really a lot of fun stuff going on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things coming up. Marco's been busy building what was originally called an office inside the warehouse for himself, and it's now being called a studio. He said that he's going to be doing a bunch of podcasts and video series and so on. So there's quite a lot of that coming still. Yeah, he's done a lot of work. Is Brian still on? Because I found the little car that I was talking about.
Yep.
This is the. It's called a dream. It's called a dream slot. It's a little thingy.
I like it.
I remember seeing those when I first saw thingies and the awesome work that those guys are doing. They were posting on Slot Forum. I'm like, what is there like a ready to run thingy? And this was the thing that kept coming up.
This is the thing that kept coming up. Yeah, they made a bunch. It's just one body style that they ever made, but that chassis, although it's inline, is very much the same. Kind of design as the new Thunderstock, where it has the center section that has the motor, the bracket at the back, and then the guide all on one piece, and then the wheels and the body on the other.
So that's what you meant, Dennis, by saying it was like the old Cox ISO fulcrum thing.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and the Thunder slot has those bars that limit the motion more than that does. But
Oh yeah, this thing doesn't have, certainly on the way down, doesn't have any limit whatsoever.
Yeah.
Until you get to the lead wire, but
it does help you clean off Decker's bed.
These go very well, actually.
That's what they were saying, and I couldn't find one to buy. I was ready to buy one, but it's like, nope.
Nope.
Well, I think that adapter like that would not be that difficult to design and Tinkercad. So
no.
So I mean, the Thunder slot chassis, if exact same premise?
Pretty much, yeah.
So the front wheels are separate from the rear wheels, the motor pod, and the guide.
Yeah, the front wheels and are on the body mount section, and then the rear wheels, motor, and guide are on a center section piece down the middle.
Now, what is, maybe it's obvious, but what's the advantage to having the rear wheels separate?
It's not so much that the idea behind it always has been to find a way to get the weight of the motor bearing down directly on the guide.
Okay, so it's not so that the motor's weight is not also trying to pull down the body and preventing the guide from being pulled down in the process, so that all of its power is being going straight to the guide. I'm trying to interpret what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that when you put the car on the track, the front wheels are supporting the body, that the front wheels are not keeping the guide off the track.
Okay.
Front wheel, the guide is being held effectively into the track by the weight of the motor.
Yeah, so you're not having to mess around with your front ride height with the damn set.
Correct. Yeah, I mean that was the idea that Cox, or that was the marketing that Cox came up with, as I recall.
So it's a true tripod.
A true tripod, yeah.
A true tripod, yes.
Yeah, but with the front wheels still there and being real.
Difference between the car that Dennis just showed and the Thunderslot is the presence and absence of the two ball bearing wings that are controlling the roll of the front of the car. The one Dennis showed has not got that, and the Thunderslot has. Apart from that, they're almost identical.
Yep. I don't know why they put the ball bearing things at the front there, because I mean normally you just
were they even
you could use wheels for that. That's why the wheels are there.
Were the balls even in place in any of the? Because I've seen people, they were testing it at Gaydon.
Right.
Were the balls in place then? I don't think they were in place in Harry's video. I guess I wasn't paying attention to it.
Yes, and it's all going to depend on the rules, right? If your rules don't allow you any part of the chassis to touch the floor, then why bother?
Right.
So people have been clipping those things off left and right.
Well, and and again, on plastic tracks that have joints and irregular surfaces, not a good thing.
But well, we'll wait and see.
Yeah,
I've got a topic that we might wish to consider.
Go ahead, as long as it's not silicone versus rubber.
No, not this time.
Go ahead, Wayne.
So, a Sidewinder car generally has its crown gear on the left rear wheel.
Rear gear.
Does anyone make a production slot car where it's on the opposite side?
Yeah, lots of them.
Lots of them.
Sure.
Yeah,
okay.
It seems to be kind of random. I don't know. Is there a particular?
Well, Thunderslot, for example, is on the one side and NSR is on the other side.
Right.
And the same with Slotted. Slotted's on the opposite side to NSR.
Right, and Slotted used to make pods that you could have either a can drive or an end bell drive on a Sidewinder. So doesn't make any difference, right?
The prerequisite to that being the successful formula is that the motor has zero timing on the commutator and that the motor will run equally in both directions.
Right.
I was noting the fact that angle winders, production manufactured slot cars don't seem to agree on whether to drive the rear left wheel or the rear right wheel. And in particular, I was referencing the NSR there, but I don't know if any other manufacturers drive the rear right. My experience is not wide enough to know that, but are there others that do that with angle winder too?
Apart from NSR, everybody drives on the left, I think, the left side of the car.
That was my finding when I Google image searched angle winder motor mount. Only NSR seems to be driving the rear right wheel. So what would be the reason for that then?
None.
They flipped
The
a
only
coin.
reason I can think of is that they decided to do that because of their experience with their own motors, that they were getting some better performance out of the motors driving in that direction. Even though they are essentially untimed, maybe they just found that they work better that way around. I don't know.
Well, I mean, a zero timing armature is not always going to be manufactured with zero timing, and you will get, if you intend to aim for zero timing, you will get a few degrees positive and a few degrees negative on different units, just because production tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, but a couple of degrees of timing, 1 or 2, 3 degrees of timing is going to make zero difference on those little motors.
Yeah. I just wondered, it just came to mind that there was no universal agreement, and then a thought process took root, and that is every force is met by an equal and opposite force. And in one circumstance, so if you put a rear axle against an armature, you're applying a load to the armature. And when you spin the armature up, the can tries to rotate in the opposite direction, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't rotate because it's fastened hard to a chassis. Now, that must therefore transfer the torque, the rotational torque, or it's actually a pitch torque, isn't it, into the chassis.
Yeah.
And in one case, it will make the car attempt to wheelie. And in the opposite case, it would make it nosedive.
No, they always try to wheelie.
Well, yes, Dennis, you're not wrong, but I've isolated the difference because the wheelie that we always experience or always perceive, squat, is actually squat. And the reason it's happening is because the forward motion is being applied to the chassis at the tire contact patch, therefore at ground level. And the center of gravity of the car is never at ground level. So it's the force of the tires trying to push underneath the car that causes that wheeling experience that we describe. But if you were to hold the armature in your fingers and the car wasn't even in the track and applied power to the motor, it would try and spin the car around your fingers, wouldn't it?
So you're thinking if you put the motor in, that's counteracting the wheeling from the tire.
Well, you see, in one orientation, there is a likelihood that there is a torque applied that moves weight towards the rear. And if you reverse rotate the motor and put the spur on the other side of the car, then the torque would be to counter the squat. Now,
That's not true, Wayne, because the spur goes in the same direction, whether it's on the right or the left.
The spur gear is turning the same way.
Right.
So what's happening is that the motor and the pinion are trying to climb up the spur.
Right.
Right.
In both cases.
As they climb up the spur, they're trying to pull the front of the car up. Now, if you've got enough traction and enough torque, you will get the front of the car in the air.
Right.
The big deal is not so much that. The big thing to think about in terms of well, in fact, on a sidewinder or an angle winder, it doesn't even make much difference. I was thinking about gyroscopic precession, but that basically loads or unloads one of the rear tires as you turn left or right. So now if you have the motor turning the other way in the car to drive the other side of the wheel, then the precession is just going to be opposite. So if you have tracks that have predominantly more turns in one direction than the other, then maybe having the angle winder drive or the sidewinder drive of one side of the motor rather than the other.
Which would be
the answer to that question, I would say, is that we generally do, and that is that most circuits run clockwise, don't they?
the pinion always spins in the same direction.
Yeah, it's wrong. The motor and the pinion are always spinning in the same direction.
That it makes you've got a solid axle, right? So there's
you've always got you haven't got an idler gear in between. You've always got the armature rotating.
You can have an idler gear in between.
In the same way.
4 idler gears in between. It makes no difference. The pinion always spins in this. It spins towards the back of the car.
Yeah.
And hits the spur, and the spur turns towards the front of the car. It doesn't matter if it's on the left or the right.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Which means that the pinion is going back towards the back of the car, so the can is going towards the front of the car. The force that the can is feeling from the pinion turning towards the back of the car is going to be towards the front of the car, which is what Wayne was saying it would be beneficial. But that happens in either situation.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The question, though, Greg, is it beneficial or is it not? Because in one circumstance, you put your braids down in the slot and you get a better contact, and in the opposite circumstance, you might put more weight into the rear tires and generate more traction. So, which is most beneficial?
I mean, that's why we glue or screw the motors in, is so that all of that power goes through the pinion into the tires rather than
exactly.
I think we're going to paralyze ourselves with analysis.
All right, let's divert. Let's divert with
the point is this. Chris was talking about idler gears, right? If you run a sidewinder with a pinion and a spur gear, all right, and then you run a sidewinder with a pinion and an idler gear and a spur gear. Now the motor is turning in the same direction as the rear axle.
That's right.
I could tell you that the traction of those things is disgustingly bad.
Yeah.
You know, I have a question, actually an important question. I wonder what John Weber is eating. Just curious.
It looks like he's enjoying it.
I know, I'm watching him. He's just chowing down.
So are the slot cars that do exactly that then, Dennis?
There again?
Are there slot cars that do exactly that? And they put an idler?
Well, you know, Ninko had that X28 or that X-slot 128 scale thing that had a belt drive. And that turned the motor in the wrong direction. And those things have no traction.
Right.
Dynamic back in the day had a set of motor mounts for the General Electric motor that had an idler gear in them, and those had no traction. I remember people building 132nd scale cars in South Africa, sidewinders with an idler gear. If you put one idler gear in, the thing had no traction. If you put 2 idler gears in, you got quite a lot of the traction back, except by then, of course, the motor was so far forward in the car that you were starting to lose the advantage of having the weight at the back of the car in the first place.
Yeah. Interesting, because I've never seen one. I've just wondered whether anybody had done it.
Oh,
but it all came off the back of the question that came to mind, which was, why is there no agreement on which side of the car the pinion should point to?
Because it doesn't matter.
Probably because it doesn't matter, yeah.
Because it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
You're also assuming the guy who designed the chassis is the slot racer. You know, and just maybe, hey, I'm going to put it on this side when he designed it. You know, it really wasn't a conscious thought. It's just how he drew it.
If there is an understanding, there has to be an enforcement if somebody doesn't follow it.
Yeah. If you go back in time to the 60s when we first started with angle winders and sidewinders, in those days the motors were timed, and they all started off driving on the right-hand side of the car,
right?
Because of the way the cars were timed. And the problem was then that meant that you were mounting the motor in the chassis by screws into the end bell, and it was a kind of not a very nice way of mounting them. So in order to drive the other side, you had to mount so what they started doing was then they wanted to mount via the can. And if you're going to use the same motor, then you've got to put the drive on the other side of the can, because all of the timing would not allow you just to turn the motor around and mount the motor back in the chassis. So they moved from the right-hand side of the car to the left-hand side of the car when everybody went to can mounting on motors that ran faster anti-clockwise looking from the end bell side, which was the standard at the time.
Oh yeah. You see, the magnet, the equivalent motor, I'm going to call them the equivalent motors in RC car racing, all have a rotation direction agreement, and that is looking at the can, you would be looking anti-clockwise.
Yeah.
It's the opposite way around to what you've just described. It used to be the norm in slot cars.
Yes.
Obviously, RC car racing has moved on from the DC brushed motor to the brushless systems now.
Yeah.
And they've maintained the same rotation direction, of course.
Yeah, well, they had to because
all the cars were designed to run that way. Yeah.
Built their cars they've got offsets in them to accommodate the gears on the left side of the car.
Yeah.
On the right side of the car in an RC car.
Yeah.
All right, Big Dan, what you got?
Just thinking back to the Thunder Slots chassis design for the Mustangs, and Dennis had his one-off car there. Some of the Spirit LMP cars employed a similar system. They were inlines, and they had like an ISO fulcrum type. I've run a fairly successful Dallara and what's the other one? The C65 Courage. Not to be confused with the Garage, but they're both that same design, except that they've got a little cross piece that limits the travel. And while we're talking Spirit, there was a comment last week, I think, about the BMW being a pretty ordinary car, the Spirit BMW. I'm just trying to find. Where's my screen share?
Well, that's one that's been re-released under a new brand, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, I've got to see if I can share a screen here. Well, anyway, the long and short is someone in my local town here has advertised one of those Spirit BMWs. They want $450 Australian for it. because of its rarity. So I thought about that. When you guys were discussing it last week, I thought, gee, you'd be lucky to get $50 for most Spirit cars here. Yep. I know a mate of mine sold quite a few, and the guys had it up for on one of our local sale online places called Gumtree, and it's been there for quite a while. And I think it's likely to be there for quite a while at that price too.
Yeah, it'll stay there for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the subject of isofulcrum chassis, Chris, you made a comment near the end of that discussion that on a plastic track, it'll be totally useless. Now, were you talking about the isofulcrum style chassis itself, or the bearing?
The ball bearings.
I don't, again, having not seen one, what are you talking about when you say the bearings on that Thunder Slot chassis?
We'll circle back on that.
Sorry, again.
There's two little holes in the elephant ears in the front of the chassis, and you just put ball bearings in. They don't rotate; they just act.
Just the ball from the ball bearing, not the whole bearing.
Yeah,
it's a 3 millimeter diameter steel spherical insert that you put into that hole.
And into these holes, and they'll either stay in or you're gonna glue them in. And the premise is you run the chassis so low
that those act as skids.
That
they're instead of front wheels, aren't they? They're alternatives. They're alternatives to front wheels, because if you body roll that car over the front axle, then the wheels and the body shell will all rise.
Yeah.
And so those bearings are there to support a rollover.
Effectively, the bearings are there to keep the guide straight up in the slot.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now on a plastic track, would an isofulcrum chassis have any advantage over just a flat chassis?
No. I'm not a big fan of the. I mean, they were. Whereas
the only thing that an isofulcrum chassis does is it allows the car to adapt to varying rail heights or braid depths a lot easier than a car with a fixed front axle and guide, with a fixed relationship between the two. But other than that, they don't really provide any handling advantages that I've ever found.
More for rally tracks.
Not that they're bad, but
Just showing an isofulcrum.
They work okay.
We're talking about Le Cucarachas. This was the first RTR, well, the first isofulcrum chassis. There is a pin here that goes through the outside pans onto the center section. So the whole drop arm, guide tongue, motor, rear axle is on one piece. And then these little pans and the front wheels are on the other piece. Okay. The thing that I've never liked about isofulcrums, on a nice smooth track, you're not using the weight of the pans and the front wheels to put downforce on the guide flight. It can tilt up and lever out of the way. Now, if you're running on a commercial track with sponge tires and you're not running the front tires on the ground, if they're off the track, then all this pan section and front axle section does provide some downforce on this one. This is a modification I made to this one. I've added a brass piece in here, and I've actually drilled through the drop arm, and I've used machine nuts and a bolt, which allows me to alter the ride height of the guide and freeze the guide tongue. And it works way, way better.
Much the same way that people lock out the NSR triangular drop arm in their GT3 cars.
Right. Well, I mean, all you have to do is look at the modern cars. Up until, mid late 60s, 67, 68, basically drop arms were gone. Now tracks got smoother and things happened like that, but basically drop arms were gone and they didn't come back until you saw them, somebody that, they're arguably, worth something on a rally track or a rally cross track, slot track, but on a smooth track, I don't believe it at all.
Do we think then that they might be helpful on Ninco plastic sectional, being that that's the bumpiest probably?
Well, again, if you've got, and then a lot of guys will put weight on these pans. And if the pan can go up and down, it's not holding the guide into the truck.
Yeah.
If you've got, 70 or 80 grams or whatever the number is, like 100, 200, whatever it is, if you can get all of that weight holding the guide in and holding the rear wheels on the track, you're in good shape. But when you introduce a hinge, so this guide, this whole thing can, go right up and lever backwards. Then the weight is on the back end under this pin, and it's not holding the guide into the front of the truck.
Yeah.
It's not doing a whole lot of anything.
No. Now, it was good early on. I mean, it certainly reduced vibrations. When this thing came out, this was like people were just agog over this thing from an RTR. Primarily it was one of the first RTRs with a 16D size motor as opposed to a 2060 or a 3060. Mm-hmm. Tiny little. On a comparative, I mean, this thing had like half the center of gravity than everything else we were running around. Mm-hmm. And it was a great car.
But it was for those reasons, not the independence of the drop arm.
Yep, mostly. That whole isofulcrum thing was an exercise in marketing engineering.
Right. So, the drop arms interestingly enough, you see newer NSR cars, no more drop arms.
Yeah.
Clearly they must have figured something out.
I don't know why they ever bothered with that.
Doesn't Carrera still have them on their 1/24th scale cards?
Yeah, but whoever you can't accuse Carrera of any kind of engineering on that car.
Other than making them tank-like.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like a low cost cars.
So you're bidding on that, right, Dewan?
Dewan, you might be able to get a real one for that.
Damn.
We were talking about low price cars, so there you go.
Yeah. Holy.
Why you go at that price?
And it's used. It's not used.
Oh.
But it's in great condition.
It's got 4,489 100% positives.
What's that in pounds? Probably sound more in pounds, wouldn't it?
It's about 3,450.
Okay.
Australian
money.
When they're offering you a payment scheme on a slot car, something is wrong.
154 for 20. I just saw that.
Well, people can
I
ask
wonder
whatever
if
they're going
Alan's
to
done
ask.
that.
Yeah.
I
The job of the seller is to ask what he wants, and the job of the buyer is to offer what he'll pay. Sometimes they do not allow.
Although that's interesting because that was the K&B Kangaroo chassis, was it not, guys?
I don't remember.
I think so, yeah.
Big Dan, did you want to share that picture before we stop the recording?
Yeah, I want to see that one that you show on the BMW.
Yeah.
Hang on. I think I've knocked the web page off. Just a minute. I should be able to get back on the history anyway.
Sorry, I knocked you off track there, Big Ben.
Brian.
You think you'd learn by now, Brian? Okay, let's see.
I'm a youngster.
Right, I've got the car up now. I just need to be able to share it. Okay. When I shared the screen before, I must confess I didn't mean to share that screen. I meant to share something else. Okay.
Well, now you've got to share it and talk about it.
So we bumped him onto track.
Don't be making mistakes. My watch.
Yeah. Okay, can you see it now?
Coming. Yep, there we go.
Tree.
Yeah, so
have to scroll that one a little then.
Scroll down a teeny bit.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, so
well, it is a nice livery.
Yeah.
Paul Special.
There you go.
I think
Super
John
rare.
ought to do one of Greg's horses in that livery.
Yeah.
No
Sorry,
payment plan though, damn it.
Big Dan, did it say someone had already made one offer?
Oh, did it?
Yeah, one
okay.
offer has already been made. Yep.
Oh yeah, I can see it there now. Yeah.
50.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I can tell you.
They're not offering 450.
Well, and clearly the offer is not for 450, or otherwise it would have been sold.
Yeah.
More like 45.
I have one here.
Uh-oh.
Dennis, I don't believe you. It's super rare, man.
Yeah, super rare.
Give you 450 for it.
$4.50.
Take payments.
All right. I mean, it's a pretty standard chassis, right?
Yeah.
It has a long can motor in it. It's inline. It has a single magnet. The gears are a little rough. I haven't tuned this one. I picked this one up in a deal somewhere. I really don't remember quite where at the moment. And so I haven't had a chance to really have a good look at it. But yeah, plastic wheels, hard tires. It'll probably it rattles around my track. I remember that. But
Why the holes in the boot lid there, Dennis? Or the trunk lid, sorry.
The trunk lid, it's got that's where the fuel fillers are.
Oh, I see.
Got little inserts inside them. But it's pretty. It's nicely done, right? It's a pretty car.
$450.
No.
See, that's the thing, and that's why I won't even go on eBay and look at this.
45
stuff,
maybe,
you know.
but not 450.
Well, it's like most supermodels. You might want to date it a little bit, but you don't want to marry it.
Well,
yeah.
And the thing is I'm more like a teenager. I'm just barely getting used to, what's a good body and all of that. So no, but really, I mean, I if I'm trying to understand the value of a slot car on eBay, I just rather just go to Electric Dreams or LED Hobbies or whatever at this, and know I'm getting getting at least something within the market rate. But
oh, Chris, where
maybe
did
I'm
you
missing
find
out.
This
Untitled
going,
Chapter.
this was the first
The first angle winder.
first angle winder by a guy in the Midwest named Roy Moody.
Remember that name, folks.
Yeah.
He did RC sprint cars.
He did
And
all
then-
kinds of things. Yep.
I've actually got a picture of Gene Hustings' first angle winder as well, but
That's the first 24th scale. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Roy did the first 32nd scale.
Yep.
There's also what we used to call the door knocker chassis. The
Yeah, this-
motor and rear axle was on a piece of brass that was hinged up front.
and this just
and it
bashed
slid
around
back
in
and
either
rattled
side.
back and
Yeah.
forward a little bit. Yeah.
It
Side
also,
to side.
is that a pin guide too,
Pin
guys?
guides, yeah.
Yep. And pin guides. I ran pin guides for years on all the 32nd scale club track stuff that I was doing. Pin guides work fine. They're absolutely spectacular to get your car back on the track from a marshalling perspective because you don't have to hold anything up.
No
You just get
flag.
it in.
They are also absolutely spectacular in picking any damn lane they like when they come
Yeah,
out of
well,
your
that's
lane.
the other thing. So the reason that this came out was this is a 26D motor, which is twice the size of the FC130 motors we use today. And this was smaller than the predecessor, which was the 36D. So when they had this on a pure sidewinder, the actual dimensions of the motor put the pinion like up here somewhere. So you had to run great big huge pinions, you had to run great big huge spur gears, which meant you had to run great big diameter rear tires, all contributed to lifting the center of gravity on the car. So Roy figured out, okay, if I tilt the motor, I can run a smaller pinion with the same size spur gear and or smaller spur gears and lower the center of gravity. And that was really the premise on, I've got some Cox 3060 Sidewinder chassis. Christ, the rear tires are
inch and a quarter.
bloody things just to, keep the motor off the track. So,
yeah.
Now you can use the same size motor, and this is still a chunk. This is a monster motor for a 32nd scale car. But you can run a smaller tooth pinion, and so you get higher gear or higher numeric gear ratios, which is what a lot of motors tend to favor. You can run smaller gear sets, you can run smaller tires, and blah, blah, blah. So that was the very first one. So when, all the Thunder slots and NSRs and slotted people say, look what I've done, you go, well, Roy Moody did that 60 years ago.
And it didn't even have a name then. Sidewinder, saddle side, sidewinder.
Well,
they had all kinds of names.
Yeah, they became angle winders very, very quickly. And then that was in 1967 that Roy came out that. By the end of 68, everything in commercial 24 scale track racing was angle winders.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on that note, I'll hit the stop button and we can keep chatting. But for now, goodbye. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.